What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is The Mad Knives, a 5-album, 5-movie sci-fi concept project. And today we're doing an episode of the Story series. This is song number 6 off the album, and it is entitled Lost in Outer Space. Show the logo. Hit the music. So in the last episode, we talked about the previous song, which was entitled We Got Each Other Now. And in that one, the Mad Knives and everybody else in humanity had escaped off of planet Earth successfully in all the homemade spaceships. And we had sort of a brief moment of calm. And the last thing that we saw was all of the spaceships that had escaped Earth had turned to face the incoming planet and watch this planetary disaster as these two giant bodies collide. So when we left them, the doctor had noticed the planet incoming, this rogue incoming planet. The doctor saw it, and it was headed towards the Earth, and a real moment of tension while we wait for the collision. And the collision happens in between the last song and this song. So right away when this song kicks off, this is the moment where everything goes wrong. Let's get into it by playing a short clip of the demo for Lost in Outer Space. So the first thing that we see is basically like a shockwave effect from this planetary collision. So what has happened is that the spaceships that everybody built got off of the planet Earth, and they got as far away as they could, but they didn't get far enough away for the repercussions of this collision. So the planets collide, and it makes this giant sort of blast zone, and as a result, all of the spaceships get blown backwards and away from each other into deep outer space. So right away when this song kicks off, we're in this sort of shockwave event. And since all of the ships had turned to watch the collision, they're getting blown backwards through outer space, which is not how spaceships are supposed to fly. So we don't see the actual planetary impact, but we see the consequences. And this is a shockwave, a giant shockwave, like unlike anybody could have imagined, because two full-sized planets just collided with each other, and all of that mass and debris and energy is just exploding away from the site of the collision. So the way that this happens in the movie is we see the inside of the spaceship, and everybody is just getting shaken and thrown all around the ship because it's zero gravity, so nobody's really attached to anything anyway, but the physics of this motion and this collision are just throwing everybody around the inside of the cabin in the Radio Flier. So there's a few moments of everybody just sort of like rock climbing around the cabin, grabbing onto anything they can hold on to and looking to get themselves strapped in somewhere. So the pilot heads to the cockpit, the co-pilot heads to the radio transmitting station, and the doctor and the farmer head to their seats in the cockpit to get strapped in and just sort of ride this thing out. But the whole time that all of this is happening, the doctor and the farmer are freaking out. They're really just sort of like hanging on to each other and yelling about what's happening. The line in the song at this point is, "You're the only living human I know." So they're just like holding on to each other and like decrying the situation. The doctor and the farmer freak out, as you would. So the pilot then is in the cockpit trying to gain control of the ship and trying to gain control of the situation. Just hopefully we'll be able to see the control panel of the cockpit in the movie, and the pilot is just punching buttons and throwing switches, and there's all these warning lights and system override things, and like just doing everything that he can to try to get control of this situation. And what ends up happening is that while they're still just flying backwards through space, the pilot decides that what they need to do is turn the ship. So at the very least, they're facing the right direction while this momentum continues. So what we get in sort of the bridge of this song is the Radio Flier slowly turning in the midst of all of this debris and planetary detritus and all this stuff. They're turning the ship. And this is a really risky moment because while they're turning the ship, they're kind of broadside to all this debris, and it's really tense, and everything is sort of quiet for a moment while the thrusters in the ship are engaged, and it's really just turning like 180 degrees and trying to hold itself together. Everybody's fingers are crossed. It's a very scary moment for the Mad Knives, and really a moment where the Radio Flier is being put to the test. Hopefully the ship holds together. Now, once they get it turned, they're still dealing with this momentum, and it's pushing them further and further into outer space and further away from all the other spaceships. So they're getting separated from their little ecosystem pod that they were supposed to be a part of, and those ships are all getting sort of separated from each other. And then in a greater sense, every single ship that humanity built, because they're moving outwards from a central point, the further out they get, the further away they are from each other. So once the ship is under control, our ship, the Radio Flier, the pilot starts sort of stomping around, giving very obvious orders. And he goes back to the co-pilot at the radio transmitting station and, insists that she starts sending out signals, trying to find anybody else. And that's really brings us to sort of the end point of this song, because this is where the Mad Knives are left. They're left totally alone. Totally and completely alone, floating in outer space, far from anybody else, and very suddenly far from the original plans. So part of the interesting thing about the last song we talked about is that for a brief moment, everything was going to plan. Like all of the news reports and the government issued propaganda and everything that seemed so creepy in the first couple songs of the album, for a brief moment, it all worked. And then at the beginning of this song, it all just got destroyed. These plans are now essentially useless. They're not going to work anymore. And the Mad Knives find themselves all alone. And they are now in deep, deep outer space, very far from the site of the original Earth, and very far from the site where everybody was planning to come back together to build the mechanical Earth. So they are just gone, lost in outer space. This is a tense moment and a sad moment. Tense isn't even really the right word. It's like this sudden isolation. Like, how are they going to deal with this? The romantics, the doctor and the farmer, are left kind of just holding on to each other in a world where everybody else is gone. the pilot and the co-pilot are trying their best to figure out what to do and to still operate the ship and to still be in charge of everything and try to sort it out. The mechanic still passed out, still in a coma, still strapped into their seat, missing all of this, but still on board the ship. So things for the Mad Knives have gone from, a bad situation where everybody had to escape the planet Earth, and now it's a much, much worse situation. And nobody's really going to know what to do or how to handle it from here on out. So that's a brief synopsis of Lost in Outer Space. If you'd like to see the rest of the songs leading up to this point and hear that part of the story, go ahead and check out the first 5 episodes of the story series. This one is song 6 out of 10, so we're coming around the bend and closing in on the second half of the album. And I don't know, I like telling this story, so hang around, stay on the channel, and tune in next week to see what happens on the next song. And I'm not going to tell you much about it, but come back and see how the Mad Knives handle all of this. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.